Hello, this is Rob Zelenak with the Fridley Historical Society, and today is June 1st, 2026, and today I have the privilege of speaking to Mr. Leon Madsen, a longtime friend of the Fridley Historical Society and charter member of the Historical Society and first president of the Historical Society. And Leon, it's wonderful to have an opportunity to talk to you today. My first question to you is, your family has deep roots in Fridley. Your dad, Ernest Madsen, was the first city manager of Fridley. Can you walk us through how your family came to Fridley and how your dad became the first city manager?
Yeah, we lived in Lexington, close to Circle Pines, and I don't know exactly how my dad got together with the city of Fridley, or actually it was the village of Fridley then. I think probably through Wyman Smith, and became the assistant clerk. And then at that particular time, Fridley was in the process of becoming chartered as a official village. And that happened in 53, and middle fall of 53. And then as of January 1st of 54, then they appointed my dad as a city manager, which was basically the administrative officer of the city.
Whereabouts in Fridley did you grow up?
Well, I really didn't grow up in Fridley. In fact, I graduated in 54 from Anoka High School. And so we lived over on Channel Road, and that was the first house we moved into. Then I got married and lived down on East Calhoun Boulevard for just I guess it was about 6 months. And my dad told me we ought to come out to Fridley, and there was a home that he was familiar with. It was for sale, so we bought that, and it was on Baker Street. And then we were there for about a year or so, and I built a new home on Rice Creek at 561 Rice Creek Terrace, and lived there for about 45 years.
So what you mentioned you went to Anoka, correct? What other schools did you attend, and where did your family grocery shop?
Well, I think I went to I think 6 schools in my elementary years. Started off in Northeast Minneapolis at Prescott School, and then we moved out to what is now Circle Pines. What is now Circle Pines used to be my grandfather's farm, and we lived there for a very short time. I went to school at a one-room school at the corner of Lovell and Lexington, or in between Lexington and Circle Pines, for a very short time. And then we moved to Cambridge, Minnesota during the war, and we were there for about 2 years. My dad was the manager of the Federated Co-ops in that area. And then we moved down to Spring Lake Park, so I went to District 36B in Spring Lake Park at the corner of Sherwood and Red Oak Drive, which is now townhouses. And so then we moved out to Circle Pines for a short while, and then we moved up to a farm about 6 miles north of Circle Pines. And during that time, I was basically in high school, and I went to Anoka. I think we were probably the farthest family from Anoka schools. We had a long bus ride every day. And in fact, we had a choice read to go to Forest Lake or to Anoka, actually, I think. We were right on the border. And then, so I graduated as I say, in 1954 from Anoka High School. And that was that.
So your dad formed E&M Development Company. The company developed several Fridley neighborhoods, including Melody Manor, which was developed in the 1960s, and Madsen Park is named in your dad's memory. Can you tell us more about your dad's company?
Okay, we started with Madsen Realty. I actually started when we were still in Circle Pines in Lexington. And that just kind of went dormant while he was city manager, but when he retired due to health purposes from as city manager, he started land development with a fellow by the name of Mike Hafner, who was the owner of an outfit that did quite a bit of sewer and water construction work in Fridley and surrounding areas. And he and Mike got together and formed E&M Development. And the first land development was actually where Holly Center was. It's no longer there. But the Holly Center area and the houses behind that, which would be from the tracks to University, from Mississippi to the creek. And then the second edition of that development was north of the creek to what would be 70th, I suppose, and between the track and the creek. And then the next development was what was called Brookview Terrace, and that was bounded by, on the west by Monroe Street, and on the east by Highway 65, on the north by Rice Creek, and on the south, about halfway between Mississippi and what would be 66th. And I can't remember how many units were in there, but Kira and my sister named all the streets in there. So I don't know, she came up with Pandora and opened up that box. And Opie Street, and so that particular areas that was our second development. And the primary builder in there was Bern Benson. And then later on, Mill City Builders did some building in there, and Random Construction from Circle Pines built some in there. And then along the creek was a variety of different builders. They were bigger homes and more custom, and so that was a number of different builders in there. The next development was Melody Manor. And Melody Manor actually developed into 3 different additions. The first addition was along 73rd, and well, it has a number of melodic names in there on streets. Just an aside on that, we ran a contest to name the streets in there. We were having a hard time with all the developments we had, trying to come up with street names or different street names that would make the post office happy. We ran a contest, and we had a fellow that was doing on-site radio broadcast from one of the model homes, and advertising this contest. Nobody entered. nobody entered a name. So my sister again became the street namer, and she came up with the melodic names of Ballet Boulevard, Symphony Street, and Temple Terrace, and so on. So that's the origin of those names. The park, when a developer developed a sizable piece of property, you're required to not necessarily donate, I guess you wouldn't call it donating, but you had to assign a certain amount of either the land to the city basically for park purposes, or an equal amount of cash or something else, so that at least that area could be served by parks. And so that particular piece of property that is now Madsen Park was what we had set aside for that purpose. And then the next development, well, anyway, that Melody Manor then was continued to be developed by my dad. Again, had to resign from doing that work for health purposes, and so another outfit took it over and basically sold it out. And I don't remember the names of the builders there, but the hospital was also part of it, was part of that original piece of property. And I don't remember, but I think that was given to the hospital district. And then the next development was over actually in Circle Pines. So it has nothing to do with Fridley. It was called Starlight Vista. Then coming back here, the next development was Holiday Hills, which is north, well, where the Woodcrest Baptist Church is, basically that corner, where Woodcrest is. There was a larger piece than what they're on now. My dad tried to get the Catholic Church to take that. And Father Keefe and my dad worked really hard to get that to happen. But the big shot in St. Paul in the Archdiocese decided no, he didn't like that site. So they ended up down in the corner of 61st and University. So then we built a few more houses there, and then so it beat everything south basically of 66th or 67th. I can't remember the name of that street that goes through in there.
Well, my colleague Pat Barrett has joined the conversation, and Pat, you want to ask the next question about the tornadoes?
Sure. May 6, 1965, the longest night.
I don't remember.
Can you walk us through any memories of that night?
I don't remember any. No, I vividly remember it all.
What can you tell us about your memories from that night?
Well, interestingly enough, I was on my way down to the university for a class, and I got about halfway down there, and not only did I look to the west, and it didn't look very nice, but I was hearing the reports on the radio, which were very helpful. And driving a little bit further, and I just kept on thinking, I have to go back. So I went back home, and it was starting to really get pretty dark, and I told the wife and our one son to we better go downstairs. And so we did. We went down under the stairway where the stud walls were just 3 feet apart, and I thought that was the strongest part of the house, and proceeded to experience something I'll never want to do again. We could feel the pressure. We could see the dirt flying around. And one of the main things that I remember is the insulation was flying around, and that was bad stuff. I had a record collection sitting in one of these record racks in sleeves. Every one of them was ruined because this stuff that was flying around in the air got inside every one of those records. And so it just kind of shows you the strength of that tornado. And we could feel the pressure in our ears. Another interesting thing was on one of the beds upstairs, the bed was still there. The roof of the bedroom was gone. The bed was still there, and there was a piece of sheetrock between the mattress and the box spring. And so that was interesting to try to figure out how that happened. But we were hit by, our particular house was hit by 2 tornadoes, and that was kind of proven by the fact that one of our neighbors came up after the first one, and he thought it was all over. And then when he saw the second one coming, he went back downstairs. And then when he came up after the second one, the rest of our house was gone. First it was part of it, and then the rest of it was gone. So we know we were hit by 2 tornadoes. And there's been talk of anywhere from, 3 to 6 tornadoes that night. And in fact, I was just watching a program the other day about tornadoes, and of course that tornado, or that night, is in all of the record books. And there still is a question about how many actual funnels were spotted in Fridley, but it was not a fun experience.
I'll bet it wasn't.
You have been involved in several Fridley organizations such as the Lions, 49er Days, Fridley Dancers, and the Fridley Historical Society. And you are a charter member of the Fridley Historical Society and served as the society's first president. Can you walk us through how the society was founded in the mid-1980s and mention a few key members involved?
Okay, well, at that particular time, the school district they just felt that this was excess real estate or property that they really didn't want to take care of. They were storing some stuff down here in the basement, but they were really hard planning on getting rid of the building. And at the same time, I was thinking that we really needed a history center of some sort, whether it be in one of the school buildings, one of the rooms there, or in City Hall or wherever. But my eyes were kind of focused on this thing. The building is unique, and many of the people can remember going to school here, and I thought this would be just a great place for a historical museum. And so I approached Tom Myra, who was a member of the faculty at the school, and I asked if he would kind of head up the job of talking the school board into making some kind of an arrangement so that we could preserve the building. And the outcome of that was we ended up renting the building for $1 a year, and that was just a significant kind of thing. And then we figured, well, we have to incorporate, so we had Don Savicol, who was an attorney that lived in Fridley and a pioneer of the area, draw up the corporation papers, and I, by kind of default, I became the first president, corporate president. And to be honest with you, I don't remember who some of the other official members were. Later on then, shortly thereafter, Fern Moll was appointed basically president. She was very active in the early project, and there were a number of other people. Ing Rossing, who was a teacher over at the Parkview School, was very interested in it. In fact, I think they were the ones that had our first exchange student. I was also the president of the Fridley AFS, which is the Foreign Student Exchange Program. And so, anyway, the society was basically formed. We had a lot of footwork to do, basically just to get the building to a usable position, just to hold meetings, let alone start doing displays and such. And they were a very enthusiastic group of people. I didn't stay in it too much longer after I could see that it was on its way and had pretty good footing. I was a member of the Fridley Lions Club, and I was president of AFS, and that's basically what really kind of took me away from the Historical Society, is AFS was in need of some leadership at that particular time, and so I took on that job. But I've certainly had very deep interest in the society since, and I think it's turned out very well.
Good.
So, June 14th, 1990 was the day of the Fridley Historical Center's grand opening and some early events. Any memories of those events going on and what you were doing?
Well, after watching the YouTube grand opening of the Historical Society, now I remember some of the stuff that was going on then. I guess I was the MC, which I had forgotten all about. But we had a real sizable group. It was very interesting that we would have that many people come to, this is a pretty small outfit, but there was a lot of interest, and that was encouraging because at least we could see that there was interest in what we were doing and what we were trying to do. And I think that particular event created more interest and continuing interest. And so that's basically what I remember about it.
Remember what some of the first displays were you had in here?
No, honestly, I don't remember any specifically. There's so many things up there. I mean, people have been so great in contributing to it, and it's just pretty hard to nail down any one thing. I mean, there was a police, a separate area dedicated to the police history in Fridley, and that was done very well stocked with memorabilia, and we kept a lot of, or a bunch at least, of the old desks that were used in here.
Mm-hmm.
Most anybody that comes walking in here now would never have had any idea that students used to sit in those kind of things. Yeah, it's turned out well, and I can't put my one thing, there was a pile of chains, and I couldn't figure out where this pile of chains came from. I happened to be gone for a period of time. When I came back, I saw this pile of chains up in the display room, and I asked somebody what in the heck they were. And they had come out of the river and were figured to have been part of the logging industry, and they were more than likely anchors when they would anchor these big log rafts on the islands out here before they could get sent down through the dam at St. Anthony. So that was just kind of an interesting sidelight. But one of the things that struck me was a pile of chains.
So the 21st century has brought a lot of changes here to Fridley, for sure. 2 or 3 things you'd say you remember the most or have seen the most in the past 70 years in the changes?
Well, the greatest amount of development that took place in Fridley was in the 50s and early 60s. There was an area south of 694, which at that time was Highway 100, that was developed shortly after the war, WW2 anyway. And then it was kind of a lull. And then there was the area north of 65, east of the tracks, and west of University that was probably some of the original development. And then up in Riverview Heights, interesting thing there. They were very small lots. They were only 25 feet wide. And the original way of getting rid of them was to auction them off at a theater downtown Minneapolis. Halftime between reels, they would have this auction for these lots out in Fridley. Nobody knew where Fridley was, you know. Suppose they knew what they were,
up north,
what they were buying. But anyway, that's the history of part of that. And then when there was another spurt in the 70s, kind of just filling out the city. I don't think there was too much major development after that until the Fridley Housing and Redevelopment Authority was set up to do something with the various odd lots and areas that were not developed, and then also to redevelop some of this older stuff that was getting kind of long in the tooth and needed to be replaced. And so that development group really did a lot of work, and you can see it, especially driving up and down University, the results of their work. And now we built a new city hall, which is a great item, and this location, or the location where the hall was probably too valuable commercially to be sitting there and not paying taxes. And so up where it is now is a little better location. And it helped fill in the gap where the arena was, the ice arena. That was going to be gone. The county owned that, and what better place to put the city hall than there? So and I moved out in year 2000. So basically, I haven't been around. Oh, I've been around, but I live in Blaine now. So.
Just a few more questions, Leon. Would you be able to tell us about Boy Scouts and camping?
Yeah. Well, there's two phases of it. When I was a Boy Scout, we camped a lot in what was called Peck's Woods, which is now Innsbruck, south of 94. And we met there twice a year. We had what was called the spring camporee and the fall camporee, and all the troops that were in the at that time the St. Anthony district, and I have no idea what the name of it is now because I know it's gone through a number of different changes. But that was a great place for all of us to meet, and along with that, I used to camp where Medtronics on the creek is over on Old Central, between their buildings and the creek. We used to hold camporees there too, and so that was when I first joined Scouts, and so that was interesting. And the creek was a great attraction to a lot of us kids. I mean, when I lived in Spring Lake Park, I was north of Highway 10, and yet the creek was a great attraction. And so, unfortunately, just another side story is that there was the pole treating plant just north of the creek, and they treated telephone poles and light poles and such with creosote, and there was just an open tank that they were soaked in, and then they were stacked to drip dry directly onto the ground, and the natural drainage was right into the creek. And they also had these vats of this creosote that every once in a while had to be changed and emptied out. And at that time, there just were no regulations, and it was just a natural thing to do, I guess. And so that it made a mess in the creek for quite a while. And but other than that, that's all I can think of there.
Would you be able to tell us a little bit about your work with the city, and when did you retire?
Okay, I started in '66 with the for the assessor's office, and that was following the tornado. So there was a lot of work to do, keeping track of how far along the various homes were constructing and stuff, or reconstructing, I should say. And so that was a busy time. And we were located at the corner of Mississippi here and what's the corner street there between City Hall and the library? Anyway.
Looking at a Fifth Street.
Okay, Fifth Street. I should know that. Yeah. Which is the old homestead of the Christensens, who were pioneers of this area, and Bob Christensen was an early officer of the society also. And we worked in the upstairs of that for a short while until there were facilities built in City Hall for us. And so I was working for the assessor until he retired, and so my last 15 years I was the assessor, and retired in 1996.
Before the interview, you were telling us a little bit about the border battle. Would you be able to talk about that?
Well, all I know is there was a border battle. It was on the southern border of the city, and it was between Fridley and Columbia Heights. And there was a squabble between the two where the line was. And I don't even know exactly now or remember what those parameters were. I think there's some history around here about that, which is more specific. And anyway, that was settled, and that was kind of the stumbling block that Fridley ran into to become a incorporated village. And once that was settled, then they could go ahead with incorporation. Incorporation was completed in I think the early fall of '53, and then they became a official village, and that was when my dad was appointed the manager then.
What were some things that you would do for fun in Fridley? Were there any restaurants you went to or any party spots?
I wasn't a partier. Well, actually, the big social events for my wife and I was when we were in the Fridley Dancers, and that was a group of just folks in Fridley that liked to dance, and we got together 4 times a year. We would split up into 4, I think it was 4 groups, and we would meet in somebody's house. And so we rotated the hosting of those parties. One of them was a formal party, one was a costume party, and I think the other 2 were just normal. But we went to places like the Calhoun Beach Hotel and the Minneapolis Athletic Club and a number of other places. And but it was a great social group. And but I went to football games. A close friend of mine had a couple of kids in football, so I watched that. My son played in park football for 6 years before he went into high school. And during one of the practices at high school, he was told, "We want you to get through that kid over there," and he was the biggest kid on the team. And my son hit him as square as he could and felt that his head went down to his knees. So he came home and he said, "Dad, I'm quitting. I'm not gonna do that anymore." So, but all the sports. My daughters played broom ball, and that was kind of new at the time they were playing. And I remember standing at the up at where the city hall is basically now, and they had a rink up there, and of course the wind just came from the northeast right through that area. And so every winter I would spend all my time up there watching the kids play broom ball. But yeah, that was basically what I did. The scouting part, after my own scouting camping and such around here, I was then the institutional representative for the troop here. And I did that for, 5 or 6 years. The Lions Club was a sponsor of scouting here. And one of the things you do when between the sponsor and the troop is have a designated institutional representative, he was called. And so I was the IR for 5 or 6 years here.
Did you have any favorite restaurants in Fridley that you like to go to?
Restaurants?
Mm-hmm.
Sandy's I loved. We went to Sandy's all the time. Unfortunately, Sandy's is not there anymore. It was very quaint. And again, it was if the building was still there, that would be one of the historical points of the city, probably. It was on what I still call Old Central. And that was the main route before Highway 65 went in. And my early days down here was before the Highway 65 went in across the lake. And so I was really familiar with, and it was called Sandy's. It's Sandy. That was the first name of it. It's Sandy. And then he changed it to Sandy's. And that was my favorite spot. Just a side story too, on the lake, when my dad was manager, people had said, we need to have a beach in Fridley. Now, it either has to be on the river or on Moore Lake. And so my dad sent myself and a kid by the name of Dave Vieger, another scout, over to the lake and see if we couldn't find a sandy place to put a beach. And so where the beach is now is basically where we outlined. It had a good sand base, and the rest of it was pretty much muck. And that was from having dug up all of the dirt that made the crossing for the highway. So, yeah.
Is there anything we have missed that you would like to talk about?
Well, there's a lot of things to talk about. I don't know if Mr. Murray need to talk about. But yeah, no, we could probably do another one of these sometime. But my sister over here, I think would be a good one to talk about the school history, the original school. She was in the first graduating class of the Fridley High School. Also, she was the first valedictorian. So she would probably be interesting to talk to.
We'd love to have the opportunity to interview her sometime soon.
Okay.
Well, Leon, thank you very much for all your contributions to the city of Fridley over the many years, and we appreciate your time talking to us today.
Well, I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you folks carrying on the torch.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Leon.
Okay.
Okay.